My name is Mark Mueller, and I farm in northeast Iowa, in Bremer County, just outside Waverly. I raise corn and soybeans, alfalfa. I plant rye grain and raise that as a cover crop, and some of that gets sold as a forage. I raise soybeans that are identity preserved. They're non-GMO beans that eventually end up in the Japanese tofu market. I have raised other specialty crops as well. Azuki's was one. That was a dessert bean in Japan. I have raised some specialty corn for the European cattle market. I don't have livestock myself, and yet I do understand that our corn that we raise and our soybeans have to go somewhere. And fortunately, we have a very healthy livestock industry here in Iowa. 40% of Iowa's corn gets fed to livestock. That's far and away our biggest market. It exceeds exports and it exceeds industrial usage. The industrial usage, first and foremost, is ethanol, but even there we get a lot of that corn back. I think about a third of every bushel of corn that's used for ethanol comes back in the form of DDGs. I don't see a downside to it. Livestock is critical. We have a local ethanol plant, and the dairy farm I work with gets DDGs weekly, dried distillers grains. So there's some of my corn that gets hauled to the ethanol plant that gets hauled back to the dairy. It's not all, it's not a food versus fuel thing. That's bandied about quite a bit by people that don't know that you get feed as well as ethanol out of that bushel of corn. So livestock is critical to our state. It's important to my operation. But as a whole, 40% of Iowa's corn goes to livestock, and that's bigger than any other place for corn to go in the state of Iowa. So we grain farmers recognize we need our livestock farmers. Livestock farming in general can be done with fewer acres. You can buy your corn or other inputs from your neighbors. You can get your DDGs for cattle and a little bit for hogs from a nearby ethanol plant. You don't need as many acres. You don't need 2,000 acres to raise cattle or hogs. So if we had more livestock producers, we might help repopulate rural Iowa. And instead of having one or two farms every mile on opposite sides of the road looking at each other, you might be back to smaller farms like the dairy farm I work with. They raise 600 cows, they got 20 acres of ground. They do what they do best, and they don't have to worry about trying to raise corn. That's my problem. I can't think of a better market for my corn or my soybeans than the livestock operation that's in my county.